Alright, it's going to be a VoD review for a Jinx game. This game is in a Gold 5 Elo. This is actually a really good example of a game where you could have won, like the power was in your hands, but there's just small things that could have gone differently that would have actually had immense effects on the game flow and would have given your team a lot more agency. But we'll get there. I like to start all of these videos with just a quick cursory look at the stats and the builds and all that. But there's really nothing super important here because your build is standard and it's fine. Bloodline over Alacrity here. I agree with the Bloodline because your support, being a Karma, she does not have a direct heal to offer you. And you as a crit carry, you usually do not want to buy lifesteal because it delays your build. But lifesteal is actually incredibly powerful. I do not want to give the impression that buying lifesteal in lane, even on a crit carry, is something you should never do, because frequently it's actually very strong. But in most cases, on crit carries, if you're playing them smart and safe enough, Bloodline should be enough, because then you can spend your money on your power spike 3 items and get it sooner. And the lifesteal of Bloodline scales off of your offensive stats. So the quicker you can get those items, the more effective your Bloodline is. But mostly, it just comes down to whether or not your support can heal you. Or you are somebody who buys lifesteal like Lucian. Lucian doesn't run Bloodline because Lucian usually wants a little more attack speed, for example. Lucians more frequently go tank boots, and they more frequently go Black Cleaver second. So the only attack speed they actually get is going to be from Alacrity and their Bork. So that's just a nice distinction to make. A lot of people kind of get confused over what to take, but I think you have all the right stuff here. The graph in general, I just want to point out, this is where you definitely get a jump, and you get ahead, but I don't think you quite handle it best, and that's what leads to kind of flattening out a little bit, rather than continuing to shoot up, like double kill and then a triple kill, and then all of a sudden you got a game because you have Baron. But we're definitely going to stop at the 22-minute mark and look at what could have gone differently, because I believe that is where you could have seized more control of the game and kind of driven it home. But leading up to this point, this laning phase is actually very long, which is more common these days, how the game planned out just a bit. But that is also due to the fact that these teams each have double globals. As we can see in the background here, your team has GP and a Galio. They both have teleport, and they both have ults that can be used effectively across the map. That is the same case for the enemy team, who has Shen with TP, of course, and a Twisted Fate in the mid lane. So what this generally means is that your effective aggression through the bot lane is more likely to be answered by response and pressure from the enemy team, because it is easy for them to get down there when they have a Shen and TF and a Graves, who is basically just an carry who kills faster but not as hard. All they want to do is gank you guys spot lane all day if they could, which is why you also had quite a few deaths down here. This is where they wanted to dive you, and it was TF that did it, and here's where Graves killed you. You didn't actually die to the Lulu in vain because you guys beat them 2v2. But this is just the nature of what happens against very aggressive junglers and champions with globals. Like, they're going to come bot lane. Compare these deaths and these kills, though, to a Vayne. Jinx generally gets her kills in lane and sieging scenarios like we were talking about. You are strong in that region, Caitlyn. But if we contrast that to Vayne, her kills are much more spread around the map, where she just found opportunistic kills with a teammate by her side. In this case, all of these kills are up against walls, basically, where she just landed enough autos and killed somebody. Probably because she ambushed them. Now, it is your Galio who is kind of dying a lot around the map. The TF does win, has more presence throughout the mid game. But I think if you and your Karma together had set up plays more directly, with the knowledge that GP or Galio could help, I think there was a few more opportunities for success. But for the most part, you guys won bot lane despite the amount of ganks received. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the game. We're going to start from the beginning. I think I have mostly 12 timestamps that I want to cover specifically. And I think there's maybe up to 20 points where I might pause. But the timestamps are definitely things that I'm going to leave in the description of the video under 3 main categories. that I feel these are the things that you probably would want to focus on the most as Jinx. And I think these are things that are most consequential in you winning forward, and that's getting killed on engage. I'll show you what I mean when we get to it. The first one comes up in about 14 minutes and 40 seconds game time. Second category is your E usage or your chompers. And then the third is your flash usage. Flash as an ADC is an important thing in the game to you. It is everything. The ability to reposition and continue to maximum damage, dodge enemy CC and damage that would regularly kill you, is the difference between Diamond ADC and a Master ADC, or even Diamond and Challenger. Having really, really good flash usage is insane for climbing, which is why multiple points where I'll show you good flash, or saved it for a more important scenario where you need it. But the first thing I want to show is that when the game starts, you want to be out the gate at 15 seconds, like this Lulu or this Galio or this Shen, because you need to be at your post to possibly get vision of an enemy, or in general, this should just be habit to you. Not being at the gate immediately is just something you don't want to get used to doing. We're going to fast forward because you guys do not have to give a leash this game, because Kha'Zix started topside. So this means you guys can establish lane presence first and basically seize control before they have a chance to get it, because Vayne is weak early and you outrange her. And Karma is also stronger than Lulu level 1. The only way they can really do damage with you guys is trading more auto attacks than you hit them with. You guys also do more damage, your abilities, and you have more. So you should definitely seize control of the lane and try to use that moment to outfarm her. You don't necessarily outfarm her. I'm going to show you why, because you probably base at a not great time, but also because I don't think you apply your wave clear appropriately and you go boom, which reduces your ability to trade and hold an offensive stifling presence. You can't really do that without mana. But it is important to note before we start that this Vayne has a Doran shield, and I'll stop and pause again when we get to the part where that really becomes notable. One auto attack there is okay. I believe the first part I'm going to look to pause it here coming up. It's actually right here. Now, this Vayne DC'd momentarily, kind of sucks for her, but you guys got a level 2 power spike and you went in on it, so you know it sucks for her, but you're doing exactly what you should be doing, and that's seizing on a level 2. Both of you are moving in and you guys annihilate her for the 2 seconds that she's standing still. And what you do here is actually really good usage of maintaining your lethal tempo and your form switching. But there's a certain moment where you just continue the trade a little too far, and I think you forget to switch back your form. I think right here is about where the trade's done. Yeah, with that auto attack it should be done. However, you switch back into rocket form here, and you drop from 108 mana to 68. The reason why this is super important, I'm gonna stop pausing it because this will take forever to get through, is that you should pretty much always have enough mana to use at least all of your abilities once. So when you hit level 3, yeah, you're going to gain some mana back, but you already have gotten so low. Those 2 rockets that you used on just these minions right here, and then there's another 3 more, that adds up super fast, and you just used 100 mana on rockets. It's way too early in the lane for you to be expending this many resources. Like, look at Vayne. She's full mana. Look at Lulu. She's 2/3 and she has a mana. This mana that you lost is not going to come back very quick. So I like that you are putting pressure on them and pushing them in. You can kind of cover up the fact that you don't have enough mana, but you ran yourself out of mana way too soon. Chill with the rocket usage and look for value with your rockets. You want to try to like AoE down 4 and 5 minions once to get really good solid wave clear per mana used. Those 2 and 3 rockets that you used in sets just to attack like very small groups or even singular minions is very low value mana, and you can't really beat. Better players would definitely punish them harder. But you do hit level 3. But even with hitting level 3, we see that your flame chompers cost 70. The Zap costs 50 and these cost 20 apiece. So you don't have enough to even use everything right now. That is generally how much you should want to keep on. So in this case, like 120 between these two and then 2 rockets. That way, in case an all-in happens to pop off, you can blow everything. You have at least probably a third. It generates some mana. So you generally don't want to dip below that amount, especially. And this is where it comes around that the Vayne has a Doran shield, right? So a lot of this poke that you put on her, it doesn't stick as hard because she has this Doran shield. It doesn't stick nearly as hard, actually. And coming up here, there's a pretty bad trade where you see that very soon this health lead that you think you have, it disappears, and it disappears right because of this trade. And now all of a sudden Vayne still has all of her mana and she's gonna out heal you. But we have to look at why this trade is bad. Oftentimes having a lead in lane just means holding on to it and not risking to try to build more of a lead. You're actually building pressure. So these few auto attacks that you trade with Lulu are specifically bad because they have more passive sustain than you because of the Doran's Blade. And you actually take way more autos than you give here. So we're going to watch it slowly so you see what I mean. We're going to keep it clicked on your health bar here. That's your first auto attack on her. And then you continue to chase. You're now being attacked by melee minions. The range minion even got one in on you and you took one from Vayne. So we're going to watch one more time. And those traps that you throw that cost 70 mana, you generally want to save those for someone that you're going to trap and shoot multiple times. If you don't actually use the CC to land more damage, all Flame Chompers is basically 70 magic damage. And that costs you basically a quarter of your mana pool to root that Lulu on the way out. So this is my first timestamp of you having poor usage because you're using too much mana and not enough gain with it. You would want to trap her when she's already closer to you, that way you can continue to land attacks. Or you would want to trap her when she gets stuck, then your minion wave attacks her. You throw it too late, and then all she does is step on it on the way out and I think we're gonna keep going forward though. I think the next thing we're gonna look at actually doesn't happen for a while. For the most part, I think, yeah, whenever you have less health than the enemy ADC and support, and they have more minions than you, going aggressive basically isn't an option. Because what happens when you do is that your shield runs out, the one that Karma gives you, and then you take way too much minion damage. That small volley that you took from those minions was about actually 80 to 90 damage. That's not health that you're regenning fast enough yet, because your bloodline's not kicked in, you don't have lifesteal, you don't have a Nami support. You have to be very careful about trading against minion aggro in the early game. You're really more about just trying to farm up that BF sword, right? And you are getting closer than her. But these very small trades where you go in for 1 auto or 2 autos and take over 100 damage just to trade 1 auto are not worth it. They're not sustainable, and against better players, just one of those can be enough to get you stuck in a bad position that you kind of can't get yourself back out of. We're actually going to go back and look at, because this is one of the E usages that I missed, making my first set of timestamps. Ah, there it is. Okay. Typically, you do not want to cast your E's at their maximum distance, because when you do, they have to fly through the air first, and then they take an additional second to set up. So if you throw them at max range, whoever you're throwing them at could either walk through them before they even land and set up, in which case you just do it past them, or they can just walk backwards and then wait for them to disappear. So if you're throwing them at max range, that should be because they're already CC'd, or because you think that them walking past them when you throw them, it would either be a death sentence for another reason. There's another example where we get further on where I think throwing them behind them is the correct choice, because then they have to make the decision that they either walk past them and full on engage you, or just retreat. Because when you throw it at max range like this, you can see that she just wasn't even there for him, right? She was already retreating. So you definitely have to save the mana. Even if all you do was land that one rocket on her, that's good enough. But let the mana be, because that mana that you just used, that means that you're actually unable to hard push this next wave that comes up, which gives her an opportunity to actually outfarm you. So Karma goes in for a Soul Flare, but just shoots a minion with it. It's unfortunate that she isn't a little more useful for you in this lane, but it's better than Feet. Karma plays an okay game, but she should probably be a little more aggressive in this matchup. But here's where I think you needed to save more mana to be able to hard push this in, because actually you had enough anyway. So the reason why this is really bad here, though, that you needed to continue to push this in, is because if she were to freeze this, you would be denied a lot more farm than you actually get denied here. She has enough minions here to basically perma-freeze this so that when you come back, you would have missed an entire 2 waves of minions, because these minions, yours, all these red ones, would kill all of the ones that come in from her side. Just like these ones are going to overwhelm these 6 minions, these, especially after they're reinforced by another 6, are going to overwhelm the next wave. Now, she does not freeze this properly at all. So the fact that you guys left on kind of an awkward note before properly pushing it in all the way to reset goes pretty unpunished. And I'm going to show you why. Because she does not respect minions. She gets absolutely destroyed trying to hold this because she does not know actually. So you get away with a very bad back that a better player would punish you with. As you can see, she also missed the cannon. Now, I'm not trying to bully right here, but this is super important stuff. She not only fails to freeze this, but she took half her life in damage and she didn't even get her cannon. That's like 3 strikes. That's a really big deal, because you are already on your way back with a BF sword, and then you can just push her out of lane and push her under the tower again. So there's the push under tower. You're trying to aggressively trade some auto attacks, which is 100% the right thing to do. The only problem is they like ganking bot lane. This is not the first time we're going to see this, and it's not the last. But we're going to back up real quick. Pause this. Make sure we can only see what you're seeing. And we see the missing pings from Galio, right? There's 3 of them. So we know that TF's already coming, and you guys get out, but just barely. Now, you're not level 6 yet, and in fact, you're extremely close to level 6. Had you pushed that wave under that you should have pushed before you based, I think you actually would be 6 here. So it would be much more likely that you actually seal the kill on one of these 2 before this even happens, and that they get here, because they're coming to kill you. So in Universe B, where you're already level 6 and you manage to pull off an all-in here, I think them even coming down to gank you is a dangerous proposition. Them trying to 2v1 you guys through a minion wave, especially Graves trying to 1v1 anybody through a minion wave, is actually incredibly risky, let alone a level 6 bot lane with their flashes and health up. But what happens is that he gets the drop on you, and you end up having to run for your life. This is actually my first note for flash usage, by the way. Watch this one more time, just to show you how fortunate you are. and then we're going to talk about how this could have gone slightly better. Now, obviously, the gank has already happened. A little bit too late. But the amount of time you spend, what we like to say, in the pocket right here, you just get a little too comfortable in a very dangerous scenario, right? We already know TF's missing. We already know Graves ganked you once, and then he's probably going to come down again. Or maybe I'm just losing track of how many times this guy ganked you this game. But this is very dangerous territory to hang out in, right? You're not level 6 yet. TF is, you know, Graves is. And you're past their wall. So this is obviously very risky. Them being low on mana makes it a little safer, and you guys are also having an item advantage in health. However, having a item advantage in a BF sword doesn't mean that you're going to be any less dead once Graves and TF get on top of you. So a lot of AD carries make these kinds of mistakes where they think just because they have the lead, they have an item edge, that they're going to be able to fight their way out of the net they're in. But 1 damage doesn't beat 2 damage, especially when those 2 damage are higher level. Those 2 damage, the way should be Graves and Twisted Fate. I'm saying this because this happens a lot over. This is that category of killed on engage that I was talking about, with the first timestamp happening at 1440, and it kind of happens right here too, except you just barely live with 10 HP. What I mean by killed on engage is that you take so much upfront damage that there is no way you can DPS your way out of it, because the next thing that hits you is going to kill you. So you stay in the pocket for a little while, and you basically force Vayne out of the fight here, which is good. But the time that you spent in the pocket here almost gets you killed. I think your traps here are not bad. You do keep him from walking a little forward to you, but they're just not really far enough thrown. Now, you managed to get hit by everything. Now, I say that in jest, because this is a situation where you just need to flash sooner. I think it's already in your mind when you see that you're getting ganked that you know that you are probably going to have to flash this to get out. The longer you wait to flash, the worse it is for you. He purposefully held on to that red smite because he almost had the damage to get you here. Red smite DPS plus red buff is a lot of burn. Now he could have R'd you immediately or smited you immediately, and you'd actually be dead here, because he would have had an extra probably 2.5 seconds of burn, which probably would have killed you. Karma Shield took some of it for you, but as you can see, like, this is a close shave, right? You literally had 5 HP. You know, your potion saves you. So, you know, thumbs up for the potion here, but this is what I mean when you say, or I say you just have to flash sooner. If you flash for the moment this gank happens, stay in the pocket, you get some good damage on her. The moment you see that smoke bomb, you need to flash it. And the advantage that this gives you, other than just dodging the smoke slow, is that you keep a further distance away from Graves, because he has to get close to you. But the other advantage is that if you get more on like a perpendicular angle with him, like right here, and then throw your traps are going to be thrown in a perpendicular line to you, right? But we need to back up just a second so I can show you what I mean. When you are standing right here and you throw these at that angle, it's just directly perpendicular to your mouse. So if you were here instead, had you flashed this smoke bomb, because you already know that he's coming in with the gank, you can kind of see it coming. If you flash this smoke bomb, you'd be positioned about here instead. That way when you throw these traps towards Graves, or between you and Graves, I should say, they are going to be at this angle. So he's much more, he has to dedicate much more of his movement just to stay in range of you or dodge the traps. But these traps right here, like, he can just continue to walk up the line. Didn't really do enough. And the actual movement of stopping to throw your traps seems like a small movement, but it adds up over time. Because if you're spending those time throwing and your cages, your chompers, and he's spending that time shooting you, this is where you just shouldn't have been here. This is where you just wanted to flash away from him and then throw it. Because the slow of the smoke bomb and the slow of red buff is what allows him to land the entire Q. In Universe B, you don't make it out of this. Graves happened to only have attack speed boots here. He didn't even have the call field. So you definitely get a little lucky. Next time you're in these dangerous situations, you just need to flash sooner. But we're going to skip ahead to the next timestamp, which is at 12 minutes. This is a lot of kind of slow laning. You actually live and back up because you had your potion and they don't stay. So you get a little lucky here. Up a little more. This is fairly uneventful. Now, over that time, you actually were landing some good poke on Lulu. There's the last Karma Q that comes out, and in this laning situation, this is a pretty dominant spot to be in, right? You have someone standing across from you that is basically half HP, and you're a champion who has an execute. So all you'd have to do in theory is land a small amount of damage, maybe Karma lands a Q, and all you have to do is land another auto attack and an R, and you're going to at least force her to use her R. But what happens here is that you shoot your ultimate mid lane. It is ultimately a good attempt, and you almost get the TF, but you don't. It's very close, Graves is in the way, and you miss, and then your teammates die mid lane anyway. So you essentially commit a resource to your teammates who still get killed. So we're going to pause it. You know, they're almost killing him. Your rocket, you know, possibly could have hit, but it hits Graves instead. Now these two end up dying, but that's not what's important here. What's important is that you had a very strong amount of kill pressure built up on this Lulu, but then you used your ultimate elsewhere. I would basically say no effect, because the play goes terribly south for the team. Okay, so your ult's down, and you don't have it to kill this Lulu anymore. This is pretty rough, especially considering that a lot of times in lane, the reason why you have respect is potential to do damage. Not because you're immediately about to kill somebody, but because you could if they get too aggressive. So when you have your ult on cooldown as Jinx, it really pulls your teeth. Like, this Lulu probably felt way more confident, and you can kind of see it in these aggressive trades that start happening. I'm gonna go back one more time. This is also actually very dangerous because your Karma leaves, and you still stand just a little too close. Whenever you see a Vayne go into the bush like this and you're standing on red side, you need to be very careful. Because she's going out of the bush here, but had she just ran up right here, like she does later on, she could just stun you up against this wall and you would be dead. You'd be 100% dead. Your Karma's not here, your flash is down, they're gonna kill you. Better players would have killed you right here. So we're gonna jump forward to 12:26. The rest of this video is probably gonna move a little quicker now. These just lane details are worth going over. Okay. That's the kind of pressure that you would have wanted to put on her earlier. Even if you just use it and make her use her R, that can be a good way to exert pressure in laning phase. You don't want to throw it willy-nilly, but it's better than throwing it for a play that doesn't work out at all. When someone's already less than half life across from you as Jinx, you should probably be looking to use your ult on them. Now this is why we stopped it, because I want done right here, or these chompers that you throw. The only reason this guy steps on these is because he didn't keep walking. He stood still for quite a long time. This is another set of chompers that you kind of threw at max range, and you threw it at the guy. You don't really want to throw it at the guy, you want to throw it between the space that he would have to cross to get to you. Now, this does work out. I'm not going to say it's bad because it works out, and that lets Karma also follow up with a snare of her own. But most of the time, you would want to be saving your chompers for Karma's snare. That way, it becomes more of a guaranteed thing, and you don't waste your 70 mana just throwing them at somebody. Because Karma has more mana than you, and more mana regen than you. So let her be the one that sets up your CC, since your CC is much more expensive. And you want to get out of the habit of throwing these at people and at max range. But we're going to skip ahead, I think, 2 minutes. GP's up there doing pretty good. You get your Storm Razor, which is awesome. And then you get ganked right when you get back to lane. Okay. This is extremely common, especially right after you just finish a really nice item. You just finish your Storm Razor, you know, you and your Karma have full HP, you got your Flash, you got your heal, you're feeling like you can just walk up and kill them. And I can't tell you how many times I see this, but when you move up in elo, the gank that waits for you, like right when you come back with items, it can lose you a game. Because you expect to be ahead the moment you start walking into lane and take that attitude towards the next fight that you pick, but you pick it without checking for vision first. Without your flash here, you're dead. You are 100% a goner. And then imagine they push this in and then take your tower, and then they go mid, and then they take this tower because it's almost dead. All of a sudden laning phase is over, and you have to start grouping. You have to be really careful. You come back to lane, how close you get to what could be a dangerous, because you are only saved by your flash here. This is what I was saying earlier when I said flash is one of the greatest tools for an AD carry, or just League in general. It saves your life, it helps you kill people, helps you carry the game, and it can be the band-aid that fixes mistakes that nothing can. The short story here, though, is that be very careful walking back to lane. I'm gonna skip ahead again. I think here's another situation where you're probably just using your abilities too much to be going this often. And the amount of mana you don't have actually affects your ability on how quick you can push this lane. How quick you can push a lane actually has a huge bearing on how safe you are in your backs. Because when you push the lane under tower, you're going to get vision of people. And when you can see people, you don't get ambushed like this with a greedy base. So this is kind of just you know, small lapse. These things happen. There's another one where you get caught in the jungle later on. But these deaths like this, you make sure they become commonplace. You did have to get Twisted Fatal, and Jin or Vayne did flash after you. So it's not like it happened for nothing. They still had to commit research off, which is important. It wasn't a free death. It was just a little lazy. Now we're going to jump forward. Now it looks like over the course of the lane, you kind of started to keep a healthier respective range, and you're trying to keep the minions ahead of you, which is kind of what this whole lane is about. You have to use that range advantage and the fact that you can hit them first in order to put pressure on them. And ultimately, this is how you get these kills, I believe, that you're about to get. Oh, no, wait. This is the wrong fight. This is the one where you get double ulted on. Okay. I'm actually going to rewind that real quick. What we were saying, though, about being in the pocket, if you're not actively hitting the tower, which you do walk up to do right here, unfortunately, that means that you're standing right here, right? TF's not on the map, you know, they have Shen, Graves is here again. I think you know where this is going. Just because you're winning bot lane, you want to put pressure on them. You can put pressure on them without standing in the danger zone, without standing in the pocket. So what I was just saying too about the safety of pushing and the safety of pushing quickly is that these minions, you know, they walk up and Vayne has to stop to farm them. Like, that's just how it is. And this allows you to apply pressure on the tower, but you don't actually have to come up and shoot it to apply the pressure. Because once you walk past this wall, you're basically just gank bait. Especially as Jinx. There's a certain point where once you kind of just walk past this wall against people like, you know, TF, and someone who's already shown that he wants to gank you a lot, you're basically already dead on a champion like Jinx. You just don't have the tools to survive. What you have are tools to do a lot of AoE damage in front of you. But you'd have to be someone like Sivir or someone to get out of these overextended situations like this, where you already pop your ult to run away, and then you Sivir shield the blue card or Sivir shield the gold. So you have to keep in mind how often you push and how often you stand in the pocket, because they don't have to happen at the same time. You can still push them under tower and apply pressure on the map without committing your life to it and standing more out here. Because if you stand out here, these two still have to move up and move for 2 to 3 seconds in order to close distance on you. Which means that Graves is effectively approaching 1v2, or TF would be porting in 2v2. They're not porting into what is already a 2v4 situation because they've all managed to surround you. You have to make them work to close the gap on you. You don't want to walk up here into the pocket and let them do it for free. I think we have 5 timestamps left. Now, this is what I was saying about this game. This game had a very long laning phase, right? A tower still has not gone down. Or, wait a minute. That was fairly recent, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, 1 tower down, right? 21 minutes in, and we tower down. It's a long laning because of the amount of globals on the map. Everyone wants to come bot this game. It's a very nice turn on your part. We are looking for 2340. They kind of forget how to play League of Legends here for a second, and you just DPS them down. But I do want to bring up this W that you shoot at this Vayne. This is not necessarily bad in and of itself, because it would have done a lot of damage and then she would have died. But when you are proccing your lethal tempo, very small actions like just stopping to cast your W actually can be very detrimental to you. Now, the argument could be made that, you know, you shoot her here, and then while your lethal tempo is kicking in, well, then I land burst while my lethal tempo is kicking in, and then I just auto her down anyway. But the problem with this is that this Vayne is already so close to you that trying to stop and shoot her with this W is just wasted time. When she tumbles this close to you, what you should be doing is turning on your chain gun and orb walking this way. because she's already gotten too close, which means that you can basically just walk her down and kill her at this point. But when you stop to use your W, and then you ultimately miss, you lose damage time, right? And ultimately, it's like you only landed one auto attack on her. Because the second auto attack that you landed, which Lulu had time to react to, she shielded it. So when you have your attack speed and have your opportunity to focus down a target who's too close to you, just keep the attack speed going. Don't stop and try to hit her with a W, because that actually lost you potentially 2 auto attacks worth of damage on this Jinx, when you could have just DPS'd her down. Now you still get this kill anyway, because they kind of forget how to play League. You know, Lulu tries to auto you to death, and then Karma hits you with the shield and you heal yourself and you guys kill him. So it still works out okay, but keep your DPS up. Don't stop DPS for a 50-50 skill shot when you could just have guaranteed damage. Okay, this is actually super important. I have to stop it here because if we look at how much gold you have right now, you have a lot. You have enough to go get your Ginsus. This is probably one of the biggest turning points, or I think you should have done. Right. You did push them under, which is perfect, but instead of walking up to this fight, which takes a long time to do, right? You guys enter the water at about 220. And then you don't actually get into the lane to do damage until about 236. So we'll say 15. Those 15 seconds could have been spent bending this gold that you have to get Ginsu's, and then probably being about here by now. And even better, you would be here with full HP, and you would be here with a Ginsu, and you would be ready to push down this tower. But what happens is you get the double kill, and then you spend 15 very inefficient seconds, or 20 very inefficient seconds, walking up to the mid lane, just to ultimately get chipped out by 1 TFQ. This 1 TFQ would normally be fine if you were full HP, and if you had your Ginsu's to heal off of the entire wave. But because you came here with half HP to begin with, 1 TFQ is basically enough to say no more fighting for Jinx. So from the moment you went into the river at about 22:20, you should have already been based by about 22:25. So this base here took about 40 seconds longer than it should, and it also gave away the fact that you probably want to start grouping. The moment you got this double kill and pushed them under tower, you need to immediately base and start walking down. But as a full health AD carry who just bought her items, these small shifts in where you rotate and when, and whether you buy first to rotate, are huge in an AD carry, because AD carry uses item and gold power spikes more than anyone else in the game. Other champions rely on item and experience power spikes, but AD carriers mostly rely on how many items they have. But the fact that you are now 2 items with level 11 would have meant that you walking down mid with full HP would have been a lot more scary than walking down mid with half HP and 1500 gold in your pocket. Grave skanking you again. It's also worth pointing out now that you kind of don't have to go bot laning. I think you're somewhat stuck in this mode that any pressure that you put on the map has to be through bot lane. But the reality is that the more often you go through bot lane, you are just increasing the likeliness that TF, Shen all come down and kill you again. Because your TF is not your TF, but the enemy TF is the one winning the mid matchup. So he's the one that's probably more likely to roam proactively than your Galio. And your GP's actually been winning top because he's been using his ultimate top. So you're in a situation where once you go down here, you already know you're more likely to receive a gank from the enemies than from your teammates, because your Ka is also not doing that great. So when you know that that's the enemy strategy, it's oftentimes better to just like take your ball and go into another lane and go push down that lane instead, because you actually push a lot faster than this Vayne and Lulu do. Your Karma has an Athene's now, or an Ardent Sensor, and you have Ginsu's, which is huge AoE, which is X. So if you were to walk into a lane and start pushing it down, and they push down bottom, you're going to get a lot more done faster than them, because you are just a better pusher and a better tower taker. Vayne is. And your Karma has her Ardent Sensor. and Lulu doesn't. Lulu gives attack speed anyway, but like all these things add up a lot. That's you putting yourself in a better situation where Vayne and Lulu would then be forced to react to you, rather than you coming bot lane to get ganked. But this ends up working out, so I'm not gonna hate on it too hard. You know how fast you're pushing, but you used your minigun because you know you're low on mana, and you have enough mana here to fight this all in. The only problem here is that you use your flash offensively. The bad thing about you also use it, you didn't have to. This Vayne died anyway. So rather than telling you to not flash aggressively for kills that help you carry games, I would say once you hit this 20-minute point, 25-minute point with an AD carry where your job becomes tower destruction and fighting, you don't want to use your flash for a kill then. You've already carved out a lead for yourself with having more farm than her and having better items. So flashing in for a kill on her when you're going to take her tower anyway, this doesn't really add up. Let's say she gets away with 1 health. You're still going to take this tower, right? You're still going to push in this wave. So flashing to kill her is a flash for another 350 gold that you don't necessarily need because you're already ahead in items. So I like the idea that you flashed aggressively to like seal the kill. That shows that your offensive plays. But your offensive play here is to win a team. And you're not going to win team fights against all this damage without your flash. At the next time. Got a lot of money here. Rotate mid. This is the second killed on engage major timestamp that we're going to look at here. And we're going to have to slow it down, or you're going to miss it. You lose that much life from 1 TFQ and a Graves Q, essentially. So this is you taking all that burst that it becomes almost impossible for you to safely fight. It's especially worth noting this Graves is actually huge right now. The same way you have your item spikes, he has his, and he has 2 flat pen items and about 300 AD. You know, you have 200 in attack speed instead. He fights with upfront burst, but you fight with DPS. But this is that collision of issues we're talking about where you take too much upfront burst that doesn't even allow you to DPS for the rest of the fight. So you have to be much more concerned about your personal safety, because as long as you are auto attacking, like as long as your lethal tempo's up, as long as you're hitting something, you're basically winning the team fight as Jinx. As long as you're ahead and you actually do damage. The problem is that you don't do damage when you're dead. I know that's obvious, and I know it sounds like a little harsh to hear it that way, but AD carries can still push down towers. AD carries can still do Baron Dragon. AD carries can still do the wave with one Storm Razor, i.e. crit Q, that branches off and blows up the whole wave because you have Ginsu's. So you don't necessarily have to mow everybody down in order to earn a better spot on the map. Like right here, turret's dead, right? Same thing down here. You got what you came for. You don't necessarily have to walk up for this Lulu, right? But because you focus on how much damage you're about to do, you're not looking at how much damage you're about to walk into. And that's why this hurts so bad. I had to watch this like 10 times over to even see like what exactly all hits you to make your health disappear that fast. Now, this Graves even got exhausted, and he still hurts really. And then another TFQ. So this is where you have to make the decision. Back out and make sure if you are going to fight this fight, then you have to watch out for your own neck first. Other than the Karma Shields every 5 seconds, you don't really have much help. Okay? So you kind of have to be your own help. Next timestamp up at 20. Yeah, we're almost there. Now, you had a lot of money. You're still ahead of the Jinx, or the Vayne. So this is you just going bot and farming your eye edge real quick. Nothing wrong with this. Everyone's grouped up now. We know that Vayne's top lane, or we just saw her. That you guys go in. And it actually goes really well. I think what happened is that Lulu just got too close to Galio here. He landed a taunt, and your ult follow-up was really nice. You guys got the kills really quickly. So these are the kind of situations you want to be in more often as Jinx, right? You're there, ready to push down the tower, and, you know, someone lands a CC. That's kind of all you need right here. This is why you have a lot of success in these sieging scenarios, because your pressure as Jinx in a siege scenario is actually immense. The fact that you might just pop off and do 2 AoE crits on 2 squishies and kill them all is very likely to happen. Especially because Vayne is still not have her IE yet, so you're considerably ahead. Forcing these 5v5 scenarios where they kind of have to die for you to get to you is what you... But going through the jungle as a disjointed group, with your team across the map in certain respects, is not what you want. Now, this is very calculated invade by them, and that's why it works out. It's a good call. But this is why you have to make sure you are either not in the pocket of danger or you siege up. But we're actually going to look at this Graves fight one more time, because this is another poor usage of flash. In these very heated moments, it can be hard to tell, and it's good to just kind of save your life and stay alive rather than die in some scenarios. But this is the stuff you see when you watch stuff in slow motion. And, you know, you watch it 3 times. Or you actually dash away from this Graves while he's reloading. Had you stayed and probably followed up with one more auto attack there, he would have died before the Lulu ult came through. And you would have also saved the flash. So these are very much white knuckle moments, but keeping your cool and just dodging as much of it as you can is what really decides the good ADC. You have to be very aware of how much damage you do and how much you can take, like updating on a half-second basis. Because if you kill this Graves here and save your flash, this next play that comes up looks a lot better, or it looks completely different, I should say, because they probably wouldn't have even gone for it. But you do come back in and get this Graves anyway. And GP out Lulu. Now, this is the play that you were talking about when you first sent me the replay, where like you felt like you need to go to Baron sooner. Yes and no. Had you got here slightly sooner, I do think the play would have turned out differently. But you stopping to do these Krugs right here is actually important. But what is paramount is that your orb walking is just a little bit. Because as we can see here, you stop and you're not actually moving towards the next fight. The efficiency of your movement and the value of like time can come down to, you know, half seconds, quarter seconds. And it does, actually. So the very small amount of time that you don't get to the next fight sooner has value. You almost pull this off. So in Universe B, as I like to say for most examples, where you don't spend quite so much time on this Krug, you just auto move, auto move, auto move. You could already be here-ish by now. You shoot and then you're already fullish HP. I think with better kiting and better orb walking and more awareness of the fact that this Galio is going in, this play turns out completely different. Because we saw how close it was. I think if you are already standing about here-ish, and you're already moving straight line towards this Baron pit, I think you get there while Galio is still alive. I think you could be about right here, right now, landing free auto attack. So these very small seconds, these very precious seconds, do add up in very serious. The same way where you took a long time to walk up here and then you get poked by TF and then you face. The efficiency of your movement, how quickly you arrive to places, how strong you are when you arrive, angle of your approach, all generally mean a lot more than how fed. Because as you can see, sometimes it really does come down to nothing. This Vayne drops as low as 18 health. Same thing early game, like when you got away with 5 health. Sometimes you get lucky. And you could argue they got lucky here, but I would argue that if you more efficient movement, that they're all dead. I think you actually going to do the Krugs to heal up is smart. You stop to kill the whole camp, and you stop to do it without microing your move with better orb walking. So in Universe B, where you orb walk and you possibly walk away when just the little ones are left, you end up getting to this fight sooner. Now for the rest of this match, they kind of just walk this one in. I think they pick up the Baron and 3 kills. And they mostly end this game. I think the power is kind of out of your hands at this junction. Let's say specifically right about here. If you look at the map again, same time as like when you got invaded here, your teammates are just not around, right? You wish the Galio was ulting in right now, but you know he's not. Great game, and GP couldn't even help if he wanted to. He's way up here. You have to be much more mindful of your positioning because it's one of those games where your support just really can only help you so much. You know, she didn't buy a locket. All she really has is her shield. So your positioning and like your lifesteal and how healthy you are against these high damage comms is basically going to decide what happens. Because all this TF has to do is hit you with one. Right? All this Graves has to do is hit one auto attack and 1 Q. So when you put yourself on the map in positions where your teammates are nowhere to be seen, their path to victory is literally just running right at you and killing you because there's nothing to stop them. I think the last thing to look at here is how well you use rapid fire cannon, and then we're gonna go back to that last fight just to show how good rapid fire cannon really is. This is just another example of how much their goal of killing you really is their victory condition, because your entire team walks through here, right? But they wait until you walk through to jump on you. And unfortunately, because they're fed and they're both level 17, the Graves and the TF, all they have to do is barely hit you. You get hit by a smoke bomb and the Q explosion, a TF card, and a TFQ, and a Graves ult, and you're dead. Only 2 people attacked you right there and you died. In order to get around situations like this where I say you engage, you're gonna have to build more tanky, or you're going to have to respect range more, and the fact that you're letting these people get too close to you. It also doesn't help that you don't have your flash. Not having your flash in late game team fights as Jinx means that them jumping on you is just more likely to succeed, because you can't reposition as Jinx. Now, I went back over that 3 times because I really wanted to get a good frame of rapid fire cannon, but I just missed it. Rapid fire cannon lets you shoot so far on Jinx that this basically becomes your safety. You can basically win team fights with 2 auto attacks. Jinx. This is why she's so ridiculous. If you can imagine having your Runons, not Gins, I think I'm calling it Gins. If you have your Runons and imagine that auto attack branching off with 2 other auto attacks and clustering and hitting all 3 of these guys, it's very reasonable to think that 2 auto attacks actually win the fight. Let alone anything else your team lands, like a GP barrel or a bar. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting that first hit in, which is what rapid fire cannon allows you to do. But if you're not actually managing the distance, like when you cut through this wall on Baron, you either have to manage the distance or you have to be able to accept that burst that they can hit you with. With a full glass build, you can't absorb the burst. So you either have to have stopwatch like you have here, you have to have BF sword and Bloodthirster, or you have to have tank boots or some mixture of the 3. Because if you're going to go full glass, you have to fight damage with. The only problem is with this Jinx, you can only get hit by so many things and expect to live. So you have to hit them first and basically chip them out. Which almost works here. So in this kind of siege scenario, this is basically game right here. If they get this inhib and they push this in, they probably win, right? Unfortunately, no one on your team can really walk up without risking death because it's late game and they have Baron. So when you're in a desperate situation like this, sometimes you have to make a desperate play. Because if no one else walks up, nothing is going to happen. So your ult's already down, but looking at the rapid fire range and like how much damage you do, your goal in this kind of situation would be to look at the scoreboard and look at who are the people that you could hit with 1 or 2 auto attacks that could possibly win you the fight. And the things that you're looking for right here. Thane and the Jinx, or the Thane and the Lulu each have armor, and 1 auto attack with runs that overlaps on these 2 could each send them below half HP. So if you could potentially land 2 or 3 before they collapse on you and kill you, it's reasonable to think that the rest of your team possibly follows up with a team fight that at least keeps them off of your. But if all you guys have to hide, no one actually lands damage, then eventually they just roll over you, like what happened. So if we play this just a little slower, you having flash here would be one of those moments where you want to walk up, even if it looks bad, right? See, because like you just hit the Lulu with 1 Runon's auto attack right there. Slow it down one more time. Okay. Here's the 1 auto attack that hits her. Just the explosion almost destroys her. So if you proc your lethal tempo like this with rapid fire cannon, you're shooting at 2 auto attacks per second. You might actually kill this Lulu or this Jinx with just 1 or 2 auto attacks, or hit them so hard that when she does walk up, or GP, finish her off. You have to sort of put yourself in danger to find ways to do damage, because having a front line that takes the blows for you, as you can see, you know, it's not really happening. Galio's already dead, and these 3 are actually all running. So someone at some point has to step up and get in like some very lethal looking poke damage and at least get a fight starter where someone is almost dead. Because if you just wait and let the team with Baron roll over you, they will roll over you. I think the biggest thing to probably leave this game with is that if there's not much you can expect from other laners, oftentimes you have to be more proactive with your own gameplay. That way, you're making the TF and the Shen port around the map to follow you, rather than just port bot lane, try to nothing else. Your GPU is actually very strong this game, so as long as you applied more opposite pressure while he was pushing, sample times when he was top lane like this, then you would basically be spreading out the enemy more effectively. Because that time, like I was saying, back at 22 minutes, I think this is where you had the biggest chance to probably snowball the game in favor. But at these very small choices, like you take 45 seconds to effectively buy an item you already have about 5 seconds from now, it really changes the tempo. You should have been showing up here with your items out your items. Because that one TF. It seems like a small thing, but these decisions need to be more consistent. You want to buy, get that money out of your pocket before you go look for me. I think that about sums it up. I believe this is a very long video. If I can close this real quick. Hour and 6 minutes. So longer than usual, but that's why I'm going to leave a timestamp, because I wanted to go over the whole thing after I'd spent my original life. So I hope this is helpful for you. I wanted to make sure on everything. Good luck in your